A little background about yourself.
My name is Heron. I'm 64. I came to this country in 1967 at the age of 16 going on 17.
Okay, so now I'm going to be asking you some questions. When you first migrated to the United States, did you feel like you were pulled or pushed, and why?
Well, I felt like I was pushed in a sense that I had a situation in Jamaica as a teenager that my grandmother felt like I should leave Jamaica and come here to where my father was. Come here and live with my father. So at that particular time, I didn't want to leave Jamaica, but my grandmother insisted that I leave Jamaica and come to the U.S. to live with my father. So I felt like I was
pushed.
Okay.
Do you think your gender made it easier or harder to adjust to U.S. culture?
I wouldn't say easier or harder. It's especially coming from Jamaica, where a lot of the social cultures are basically the same. You have a lot of West Indian coming to the United States, and their lifestyle is the same, with the exception of course, this country has the opportunity that they present to everybody to make a better life for themselves. But I mean, as far as social lifestyle, it's basically the same.
What was the most negative experience you had when you first migrated to the United States, and how did it make you feel afterwards about the culture?
Okay, I really didn't have any experience culturally different from what I'm used to. What happened is, when I came to this country first, one of the things, I'm just throwing this in, one of the things that surprised me a lot was the fact that there were abandoned buildings, there were derelicts on the street, because when anybody come to the US from Jamaica and then they come back to Jamaica, they give you the impression that these things does not exist in the US. So when I came and I saw, that was like, if you could call it a culture shock for me.
Migrated, were there any policies or laws that nowadays would be considered racial discrimination? And or were there any policies or laws that pushed away racial discrimination?
Well, as far as I'm trying to come up with something that is credible. In those days, black people were they were just getting past the issue of when they had the civil rights. Civil rights, when black people were denied a lot of opportunities, and that has changed, even though it's not 100%, but it's a lot better than it was during those times. Black people are afforded more opportunities now than they used to.
The meaning a majority and minority are changing in the U.S. In other words, white people are not referred to as the majority, but a mixture of many racial and ethnic groups. What are your feelings towards this?
Okay. An example of the way I feel about this is the neighborhood that I live in. It was predominantly black. What has been happening over the last the last few years is that there has been a lot of white people moving into the neighborhood. From what I understand, that's the way it was before I got there. We used to be a lot of white people, and then they moved out. So now, the way it is now, it's more, you have white people, you have black people. It's all on an evil scale right now. There is no predominantly black people, black neighborhood, because it's more diverse at this time.
Do you think that's a good thing?
I think it's a good thing, and it has helped. It has helped the community. It has helped the neighborhood because, personally speaking, I think we get a lot done as far as getting assistance from public officials and other advantages that goes with a diverse community.
Okay, thank you. Information about yourself.
Hi, my name is Olivia. I come from the Bahamas. I came here to New York when I was 14. And as you can see, I lost my accent. But I live with both parents, and it actually turned out to be a really great new start for us.
When you first migrated to the United States, did you feel like you were pulled or pushed, and why?
Well, I would say my parents felt like they were pulled, and in a sense, me too. You know, you don't get the benefits that you would get here in the States, the United States, rather than back home. So we were definitely pulled.
Do you think your gender made it easier or harder to get adjusted to U.S. culture? Why or why not?
Well, I think being a woman and, you know, just a female in general, you have a lot of benefits, especially when you're attractive. And I think all women are attractive. Everyone has attractive qualities. So, I mean, definitely it benefited me because it was just easier to shift into like how things were here in New York.
What was the most negative experience you have had in your first migrated to the United States? And how did it make you feel afterwards about the U.S. culture?
A negative experience. I don't really think I had a negative experience here. Definitely positive experiences since I've been here, but there was one thing before, like with schooling, and I know like back home we value schooling a lot, you know, here too, but...
Negative experience you have had when you first migrated to the USA, and how did it change your thoughts on the U.S. culture?
Well, I wouldn't say that I had any real negative experiences here. Everything has been positive except for schooling. They did cut like some activities due to budget cuts in schools, and you know, other like great things that I would have thought that would have benefited children. That, I mean, I would have never thought that the government would cut schooling, you know, funds towards schooling. So that was just one negative thing that I took kind of hard. But other than that, it's been pretty great.
When you first migrated, were there any policies or laws that nowadays would be considered racial discrimination, or there were policies or laws that pushed away racial discrimination?
So you're asking me, when I first moved here, were there any laws that I found discriminating?
Yeah, or were not, you know, towards pushing away discrimination?
Honestly, no. When I first moved here, I didn't look into all of the laws here in the United States. I mean, because initially you think the States is freedom. Like, you're gonna have things that you don't have back home. So when I came here, I definitely found it to be more free, you know, and just like different from back home, and just there's so many different cultures and just so many different things here that usually back home is traditional. So
it was all positive then.
yes.
The meaning of majority and minority are changing in the U.S. In other words, white people are not referred to as a majority anymore, but a mixture of many racial and ethnic groups. What are your feelings about that?
Well,
Do you think it's a good thing? Or
that white people are the majority?
like we're the majority now? Meaning Hispanics, black people, Asians, not white people anymore.
Yeah, I think it's really good. You know, everything is changing up, and plus all these interracial relationships, and I mean, you just nowadays you don't know what you are like. But I think that is really great. It definitely gives a new perspective in life and different, you know, opportunities, and just the world changes with different people, not just the same mindset of people, the same, you know, race, culture. Like, you need diversity, so it's definitely for the best.
Okay, thank you so much.